Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I'll be factoring equations. So here we're supposed to solve for the x value by factoring. So essentially we're solving for two x-intercepts and we have to do that by factoring. So how do we do that? So, well, let's start off with this equation on the left. And now before we begin, I should note that when you're solving for x-intercepts or x values, which will be x-intercepts, you have to set the equation to 0. So I think in the past I haven't done this, but you have to set it to 0 if you want to be able to solve for the x values. So here, that's what I'm going to do today. But if you know how to factor, setting it to 0 is not going to be too difficult. It doesn't really change anything. I'll just show you what the slight difference is at the end. So we have x squared minus x minus 20. So we just have to factor this equation. So we see that a is equal to 1, so we just have to figure out what two numbers multiply to negative 20 and add to negative 1. Well, we can do some process of elimination here. I think negative 5 and 4, right? Negative 5 plus 4 equals negative 1. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. And since a is equal to 1, we can just put these two numbers into the bracket. So we have x minus 5, x plus 4, and have that all equal to 0. So now that we have this, we take each of these brackets and set them to 0. So right now, this entire equation is set to 0, but what you can do now is you can bring this to the side and say x minus 5, sorry if you can't see, equals 0. And then you just solve for the x, so you have to get the 5 to the other side. So x is equal to 5. So this would be the first answer, and then you would do the same thing here. So we can bring this down, x plus 4 equals 0, and then we just solve for the x. So then we bring the 4 to the other side. So that's negative 4. So these are the two answers. So pretty simple. Now we'll do that question, but I'm probably going to erase this and bring this question to this side. Alright, so now we have 3x squared equals 11x minus 10. So the first thing we want to do is we want to bring this 3x squared to the other side of the equation because we want to be able to set this equation to 0. So we move this to the other side by subtracting it by negative 3x squared, so then this will be left with 0 after, and then we'll have equals negative 3x squared plus 11x minus 10. And now that we have it in this format, we can just factor. So as you notice, the a value is not 1 anymore. So what do we do? Well, we'll have to do decomposition the long way. So negative 3 times negative 10 is 30. So let's write that up here. And the b value is 11. So what two numbers multiply to 30 and add to 11? I think 6 and 5 do the job. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 plus 5 is 11. So now just simple factoring. So we have negative 3x squared. Now remember, when a is not equal to 1, the two numbers you come up with here, you have to split the b value into those two terms. So we have plus 6x plus 5x. Because we use these terms and we split this b value into these two terms. Then we have minus 10. Okay, and now you just factor by grouping. So we group the negative 3x squared plus 6x together. So I'll do this. And we group the 5x minus 10 together. So now we just factor this out. So 0 is equal to, we can factor a negative 3x here. So negative 3x squared divided by negative 3x, that's just x. 6x divided by negative 3x is just minus 2. Okay, and now we factor this term out, so we can factor out 5 here. So 5x, negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. And you know, if you're right, if these two expressions in the brackets are the same, so we know they are the same. So now we can factor out the x minus 2. And then we're left with a negative 3x plus 5. So if you want, you can write that as 5 minus 3x. Or you could write it negative 3x plus 5, your choice. Alright, so now, this is the easy part. We set these terms equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. You just solve for x. So x equals 2. And then 5 minus 3x equals 0. So let's get the 5 over. So we have negative 3x equals negative 5. Then we divide both sides by negative 3. So then we have x equals, now you could put this in the decimal, well first the subtraction signs cancel out. Now I'm going to leave it as a fraction, but if you want, you can divide 5 by 3 and get a decimal, but I should note that this is a grade 10 concept, but once you get to grade 11, you're going to learn something called keeping it as a perfect value, I think. And perfect value means no decimals. So if you want to get into the habit of leaving your answers in fractions, that's fine. But if your teacher requires it to be in decimal format, do that. But yeah. So these would be your two answers.